Guys, I'm always excited to invite you to Steubenville, Ohio. God's blessing on the Rust Belt and on the United States of America. But I'm especially excited to invite you for a New Polity conference, May 29th through 31st, New Polity 2025. The title, Our Kind of People. And we think you are our kind of people, and we want you there. New Polity, Our Kind of People. What's it about? Pretty simple. We want to discuss the idea of the people. It's a nebulous part of Catholic social teaching that needs to be brought out. The church teaches that the peoples, are the proper subjects of the salvific work of Christ and the spreading of the gospel. But who are they? What constitutes a people? What makes them up? Is it blood? Is it shared values, shared loves? Is it language? What is it? Are we a people? Is America a people? Is America the anti-people present in the world by Satan's power to corrode peopledom wherever it finds it? These and other questions will be brought up. We're also really excited to announce our keynote speaker, Rocco Bottiglione. He's a marvelous guy, and among the many, many things he has done, besides being a good friend to the popes, an excellent politician in Italy, and a philosopher to boot, he's also written a book for New Polity Press that discusses directly the theology of the peoples. The book's called Alternative Modernity, and it is a discussion of where Pope Francis is coming from. If there's ever been a pope who has taken the idea of the people as a particular culturally bound unit, it's been Pope Francis. And that needs to be addressed because we also have, at the same time that the Spirit has given us Francis, we are experiencing populism, the apparent victory of peopleism over all other forms of democratic governance. And we have it right here in our hometown, Steubenville, Ohio, and America now, indubitably, Trump land. We want to discuss that as well. This is the place to do it. This is the place to bring your concerns. We always bring good humor, good food, and good friends to the discussion. And if you've been to a New Polity conference before, you know it is a great time. So you can go to newpolity.com/events right now and get registered for the conference. And we're going to be in touch with you with all of the readings that we would hope get you started with this discussion of the people so that you're ready to take part in what I think is one of the greatest events of the year. Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Polity's podcast. We are very excited. I mean, that's how we start all of our podcasts.
Everyone.
To say how excited we are. But it's true this time. We're announcing New Polity's 5th annual conference entitled Our Kind of People,
during which we're going to be judging every single attendee
as they walk in. Our kind of people?
So the dates, say it up front, May 29th to 31st of 2025.
There's not 31 days in May, Mark.
Is there not?
I'm just making you see. Yeah, the question is
May 29th to 31st, a 3-day conference in our very own Steubenville, Ohio. We are just thrilled to have you here. It's such a fun time. I look forward to it every year, just seeing hundreds of people at this point. Hundreds. How many hundreds? Hundreds. Pour into Steubenville, Ohio, and it is just this marvelous meeting of friends who have a lot of the same concerns, a lot of the same intellectual projects, a lot of the same spiritual journeys, and we get to speak with you guys, meet you guys, and then really develop a line of thought that's been such an exciting part of being in the church today. Mm-hmm. The people.
Yeah, which ones are we talking about?
We're talking about the people because it has become a crucial.
That clarify things?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Come on, try to keep up.
Yeah.
It's a crucial part of the church's. You guys don't let me do this?
Yeah.
Crucial part of the church's thinking today. So Pope Francis especially has been inspiring this question in us. But I'll say even before that, it just comes up constantly because whenever people listen to New Polity and in our own thought, they immediately understand that what we're about is building community. Mm-hmm. We're about trying to find personal solutions to what have been hitherto only imagined to have mechanical problems. This is true of our understanding of economy. It's true of our understanding of virtue, and it's just true of our understanding of living in community and Christian community together. But there's a way in which we've really put off the question, what are we up to?
Until now.
Yeah, we want to answer, are we building a people? What does it mean? Can you, as a Catholic that has a sort of universal attitude, mm-hmm. right? All nations of the earth saved in Christ Jesus. Mm-hmm. And yet, all the nations of the earth are particular, and there's a joy almost in the particularity of being this people, of belonging to a people. That doesn't seem to be negated by the universality of the Catholic Church, but it's a problem.
It is.
Yeah,
It is a problem.
Why is it a problem?
Well, I mean, I this probably isn't the time to delve too deeply into the question, but
No. May 29th to 31st is
Yeah.
actually.
but if you look at, like you brought up, the mechanical solutions, liberalism, formal solutions, kind of abstract rights, abstract contract theory for the constitution of a provisional people for the achievement of certain ends, and then the reaction to that seems to be, oh no, there is such thing as the people. There's a social thing that is somehow prior to, that is the substrate on which such structures can be built, all of these, right? And you get, and then it's like, well, what is that people? Is it a family? Is it a clan? Is it a tribe? Is it a municipal commune? Is it the nation state?
absolutely.
Is it a race?
Yeah. And
What is it?
The answers to these questions have pairs with the various ideologies on offer.
Absolutely
for people.
right.
So yeah, you have the race theory of people. You have a sort of structuralist linguistic theory. Well, it's a common language that makes a people. You have the Augustinian answer, right? People are their common love.
Yep.
But there's also this sense of dissatisfaction that obviously drives the question, right? The dissatisfaction seems to be that we are currently in groups that for some reason don't seem to be attaining what we feel or know to be a good, namely belonging to a people. It's like, for some people, I've heard many folks say that we live in states and nation states that are simply too big to be a people. There's just too many of us. There's a sense that there's a limitation of that. There has to be a limitation of how many people are in a people. Which is an important question.
Yeah, and the whole question of the people in the singular, like if we are a people, that means other people are not that people, but a different people. So there's like an inside-outside thing.
Totally.
These are our people. That's a different, and it's like, well, where does that line drawn? Is there a line, or is it just this sort of fluid bleeding one into the other? Is there really a singular entity that every person has a sort of primary identifier? I am this or I am that, or is that just a linguistic convention, or is there actually a metaphysical reality to this? Right, these sorts of questions.
Yeah, and our Holy Father, Pope Francis.
What does he say?
Well, he has his roots in a field of theology, you could call it, called the theology of the people, theology of peoples. Sometimes it's called.
Are the people doing that theology? Are they a people?
Well, they're largely Argentinians.
Ah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I say
Interesting.
yes.
Oh, okay. All right. You got one answer already.
But the idea there is almost more of a theological tendency than it is some sort of systematic way of approaching ecclesiology, where it's a tendency towards emphasizing the bottom rather than the top. Yeah. So rather than hierarchical order, emphasizing the lived experience of the faith. And that's kind of the font or the fountain from which the vitality of the church emerges, right? So out of the people. So it's like, well, okay, but is that people any old people? Because if you look at history, a lot of people were clearly not Catholics and did some really nasty things. So it can't be those people. Why
Sure.
not? How do we identify these people?
Yeah. And on a lot of this, for folks who have been following New Polity for some time, will be familiar. In some ways, it's a way of looking at a lot of what we discussed and have discussed regarding regime form, political forms, and tyranny. So in those particular lines of thought, there is an awareness that there's ways of organizing socially that are themselves inimical to the gospel, inimical to Christian life. It's not just any old grouping of people that can become Christian. Oh, you have a Christian tyranny. You have a little Christian dictatorship.
Yeah, so if you relativize people to just say it's any old association, that doesn't get us very far.
No.
Because human beings are always in association.
No.
Right? Then you have to say good people, bad people.
Yes.
But if you're gonna say the people, like a proper people is always a good, well, now we have a philosophical problem.
I love it. And thankfully, we're not on our own here. We are very excited to announce our keynote speaker, Rocco Bottiglione,
the Italian Minister of Economics?
The very same.
Whoa.
Who is a brilliant man, speaks many languages, always has a story
English?
about...
Does he speak English?
Very well.
Oh, good.
And always has a
It's gonna be
story
a dull
about...
conference.
One of the things I like about Rocco is that he knows the popes intimately. He knew John Paul, he knew Benedict, and he knows Francis. And so he is someone that not only has, in his own right, done some great theological and philosophical reflection on the meaning of the people and its relevance to the people of God, but has also spoken directly with the leaders of the people of God, namely the last couple popes.
And in his involvement in politics, also has some things to say about populism, which would seem to be, not only is that kind of the current thing, but is directly referencing this idea of there being such thing as a people, but not always answering the question of what that people is. No, right? It's a curious thing where like populism often talks about the will of the people, but then an aspect of that is identifying the people within that grouping that aren't a part of that.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's not all the people within a certain regime, like the people opposed to these other people.
And ultimately opposing the kind of the oligarchy.
Yeah.
That newly represents them. That seems contrived to me. Maybe we'll talk about
that's
that.
something that would have to be talked about.
Yeah,
I think you should. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about this topic is that it is inspiring to belong to a people, and the very idea of it fills us with joy. And it also, for that very reason, is very manipulatable. It's like one of the easiest ways to get a bunch of guys to go die, for instance, is...
We're going to talk about tattoos at all?
I think we should.
Okay.
Tattoos and going to die for things seems to be really important. Totally. Also, mobs, riots.
Children they love the idea of a people. They want to be a part of a people.
Oh, yeah.
They want to figure out who they are. Yeah. They ask all the time. It's very interesting. Which
leads to another difficulty that we should discuss at the conference, is whether Americans
are a people
or can be a people.
Oh my goodness!
How many times have we said people?
Coming.
Many times. Obviously, some of this will dovetail with the discussions of nationalism, which have become somewhat popular. The idea of whether nationalism can be redeemed as a Christian project. That's going to come up, and I think we should tackle it. Also, it's going to dovetail a lot with really a look at and a dialogue with the hard right. Totally. They've got definite answers to who makes up their kind of people, and often it's basically a Hobbesian war of people against people, and may the winner take it all is sort of the idea. So whether the church,
the people?
sort of, yeah, whether the church has something to retain in that and then respond is...
It's a very important time for the church to address this topic. Something that I know that we've talked about internally is that if you look at the course of Catholic social teaching, it seems like there's a lot of dialogue or of discourse with liberalism, a lot with socialism, much less with any sort of nationalism or people-based understanding, any sort of what I would think of as the right. Right? They deal with the liberals and the socialists, but what about the right? Right? The kind of identitarian right. That's that, and so it's appropriate, I think, that the church starts to say, "Oh, we also have to really seriously deal with the identitarian right."
Do they ignore that because some of the proposals led to such obviously morally repugnant results?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's ignored. I mean, there's, Nazis are addressed, but it's relatively...
I don't mean ignored as in they don't talk about it or they don't point fingers, but they don't philosophically approach.
I actually don't know. I don't know why I would say that a lot of it has to do with the course of history itself, and that the church began the social doctrine project as basically an intellectual argument with ideologies. And part of the aspect of the hard right is it's non-ideological, or at least not so clearly intellectually ideological.
Say more about that.
Well, just like who are you
It's
going
more
to...
about sentiment. It's more about love of brother, love of country. Love. It's less system.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's very clear with the hard right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's like there's the social doctrine needs to engage with that hard right, because there are like with liberalism, like with socialism, there are truths that are being extracted and isolated, absolutized, and therefore rendered false. Right? But you can't just condemn the whole thing. Like that would have been a mistake to do that to liberalism. It would have been a mistake to do that to socialism, and it's a mistake to do it to the populist right.
In a way, you see this with the left. You had the initial condemnation of liberation theology in various Marxist strands, just as part of the history of the church. But then even the theology of the peoples itself, as a Orthodox movement in Argentina that Francis was a part of, was the effort to say there's good here.
Yeah,
and we can speak about it, but we can also avoid the errors that come from dialectical materialism and things like
right.
that.
But it raises. That's why I'm saying this is a very appropriate topic of conversation and a very necessary one, because a lot of that emphasis on the peoples was in opposition to what was perceived as a universalist push of liberal modernity, especially the English-speaking liberal modernity. And so it's, you guys are universalists, but look, there's particular value, there's particular cultural truths that are embodied in these people in this time and their history. And that's all a very true response to international liberalism, right? But the problem with that, obviously, is it would immediately raise, well, is that true then of the European peoples?
Yeah.
Of the, if it's true of the South American peoples, isn't it true then of all peoples? So now we have to talk about France and England and Germany. And it's like, well, that seems to be what a lot of the populists in Europe are talking about. So, but the original move was this sort of vaguely left-wing response to American internationalism. But now it seems, when you read it, it seems to sound quite a bit like what the hard right is saying in Europe. So where are we there?
Yeah.
That's intriguing. Yeah.
Well, what I can say about our conferences, with no bias whatsoever, is that they are very fun.
Yeah.
They're a great time. There's great food. There's great people. There's jokes, almost maybe too many jokes from me. I have to write a real thing for this.
No, don't.
Seriously.
Everyone likes it.
And we hope you'll come. We hope you'll take some time with us in May, and we're also going to be kind of preparing for it. We'll be sharing with you the kind of texts that we're reading, that we're looking at, the debates we want to have.
Is there going to be a debate this year?
Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be a debate. We'll think about it.
Who else is coming other than?
We can't say.
We don't know.
We have a lot of a lot of pans in the fryer. I can say there are names I would love to speak right now,
Donald
but I just
Trump.
can't do it yet. Send an invitation.
Yeah. It can't hurt. He's unpredictable.
Yeah. It's true. So there it is. New Polity 2025, Our Kind of People. We can't wait to see you May 29th through 31st. We've got the ability to register right now at newpolity.com/events. You get in early, you get a better price. That is how we manipulate you into marking your calendar.
At least we're honest about it, I guess.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.